so it's going to be story time with Kat. This is The Hangman's Daughter by Oliver Potch, and page 37, in case you have it. But I found this thing and it was really cool. So Simon is the physician or doctor of the town, and he's going through the Hangman's really cool library, and he finds this new book that even the university probably doesn't even have yet. And so, he's just like admiring it, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's an anatomy book. And it said here, Simon reached for a particularly heavy volume which he had often held in his hands. He ran his finger over the title, Exercitario Anatomica de Moto Cordis and Sanguinis, he murmured, a disputed book that was based on the idea that all blood in the body was part of a perpetual circulation powered by the heart. Simon's professors in Ingolstadt had laughed at this theory, and even his father had found it far-fetched. And I thought that was so cool because, in anatomy, I watched a heart pump blood and, the 4 chambers and all that. But, yeah, I wanted to read this bit. So he's staring at this book because it's brand new, and it is Surgical Armory. But, Simon let his fingers glide over the binding of this masterpiece of surgery. Pity that you only have eyes for books. Simon looked up. Magandella was leaning in the doorway and looked at him brightly. The young physician couldn't help swallowing. Magdala Cusel, 20 years old, was aware of the effect she had on men. Whenever Simon saw her, his mouth became dry and his head seemed empty. In the past few weeks, it had become worse. He was always kept thinking of her, sometimes before he slept. He imagined her full lips, the dimples in her cheek, and her laughing eyes. If the physician had only been a little superstitious, he would have supposed that the hangman's daughter had cast a spell over him. I'm waiting for your father, he stammered, without taking his eyes off her. Smiling, she came up to him. She appeared not to have noticed the dead boy on the bench as she walked past, and Simon had no intention of bringing it to her attention. The few moments that they had together were too precious to fill with death and suffering. He shrugged and put the book back on the shelf. Your father has the best medical library for miles around. Sorry, my hair. Stay. I'd be foolish not to use it, he murmured. His glance wandered over her plunging neckline, in which 2 well-formed breasts were apparent. He quickly looked away. Your father sees that differently, says Magandella, and slowly came nearer. Simon knew that his father considered the hangman's books to be works of the devil, and he had often warned him about Magandella, Satan's woman, he had said, and he who has dealings with the hangman's daughter will never be a respected medical man. Simon knew that there could be no question of a marriage with Magandella. She was, quote, dishonorable, just like her father. But he couldn't help thinking of her. Only a few weeks before, they had danced together for a short time at St. Paul's Fair, and for days this had been the subject of gossip of the town. His father had threatened to beat him if he was seen with Magandella again. Hangman's daughters married Hangman's sons, and that was unwritten law. Simon knew it very well. Yeah, and it keeps going, but there's your little bedtime excerpt. And I need to find a happier book, but this one's really cool, and it's old time, kind of set in old times, sort of. Not really far back, but yeah. Good night.